Okay, good morning, everyone. So, welcome back to the International Professional Week 2022. So, I'm going to be moderator for this event. So, my name is Sukma. So, we're going to have a very good, interesting, and I think it's a very interesting topics for today. It's about sustainable fashion industry. So, we have Monty Hasan here as our speaker. So we're going to talk a lot of good things about his business. Hello, Monty.
Hi, Sukma.
Oh, nice. Okay. So yeah, before we start, I'm just going to give some house rules for the audience. So welcome students. So all the sustainable fashions industry enthusiasts, I would like to remind you that there are guidelines that we need to follow. So for the first things is we would like to make sure that all participants are muted during our sessions, but we would like you to turn on your video during the session. So make sure you do that. So if you're BINUS students, you must change your display names with your ID and then your full name with the class. So the example is like that, as you can see on screen. There will also Q&A sessions. So you need to type up your questions in the chat box. And then if you would like to ask the questions directly, please raise your hand. So, and then we're gonna unmute you, and then you're gonna use your microphone to say something. There will be SAT points for BINUSian students for participating at least 80% of the total duration. And there will be also an exit ticket link shown at the end of the session. So the link will be used for you to claim all those kind of SAT points. Okay, so let's get back to Monty. So before I give Monty all the opportunity to say something about his business and then what he's doing, I would like to share little bit about Monty. So, Montgomery Andika Hassan, that's your full name, right, Monty?
That's correct.
Right. So I mean, when I read your CV, I think that's very, very, when you talk about young generations, kind of, you did a lot of many things, right? You did a lot of things that we can actually say new, right?
Mhm.
Technology related, and some of you prefer to do those kind of things because you just like it. So FYI, everyone. So Monty is a founder and the CEO of Topiku, but he has experience as producer and DJ. Is that right?
That's right.
Right. A graphic designer and photographer, and social media manager and designer. He also been working for Globalizer X advisor at Shota.
Mhm.
Nice. In terms of education, you have Bachelor of Science in Geodesign at University of Southern California. And then you also have a certification for sustainable business strategies in Harvard Business Schools.
Mhm.
Well, that's shining.
Thank you.
That's shining, bro. So many languages you can talk. So there are a lot of skills and a lot of software programs you can use. And I think it reflects on the business that you're doing.
Mhm.
Right. So without further ado, so here's Monty. So Monty, please tell us about your business, and we would like to know about how you can make sure that when we talk about sustainabilities, it's very sector and how you can incorporate business with sustainability. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction, Sukma. So, hi everyone. My name is Monty, and I'm the founder of Topiku. I started Topiku while I was in my second year of university, and it has now grown to be an industry leader in sustainable hat manufacturing. So we work together with Indonesian artisans to create premium headwear made from upcycled and recycled materials. Through our responsible manufacturing process, we help to divert usable materials from landfills, as well as guarantee artisans living wages. So as we all know, waste management is a huge problem, not only in Indonesia, but the fashion industry as a whole. I'm a big believer in the power of business as a catalyst for systemic change. A business model that can incorporate a wholesome mindset of environmental, social, and financial sustainability can find success in the long run when it balances profit with purpose. So by introducing our artisans to sustainable production methods, we created a pandemic-proof business model, scaling up nearly 3x every year since 2019. So you might be wondering, kenapa ada bule yang kerja sama sampah? Well, I was born in the States, but my parents are from Jakarta. And I spent my childhood growing up between Jakarta and California. And one thing that always stood out to me was, why was there such a huge disparity of waste management systems between my two homes? Pictured here is Bantar Gebang, or Jakarta's landfill, which is located in Bekasi. And according to the BPS, Indonesia generates 194,000 tons of garbage each day. Now, as ugly as this scene is in Bantar Gebang, it's not receiving all of the waste that gets generated in Indonesia. So much of Indonesian waste ends up just polluting our natural waterways or ending up in the environment. So, that being said, we can be optimistic. Indonesian waste management is improving. And although we still have a long way to go, nearly half or a little bit over half of all waste is being managed in Indonesia now, which is a number that continues to grow year after year. And in 2020, areas like West Java saw the highest increase in recycling services. Certain factors include the creation of more waste processing facilities and the increased use of waste banks or bank sampas. And during the pandemic, the waste management industry actually grew. So it became the third fastest growing sector behind pharmaceuticals and telecommunication sectors. So I think we can be optimistic that things are improving, but we still have a long way to go. So now I'd like to show you guys a video. If you guys were on social media last week, you might have seen a video of a blood red Citarum. So I'll show you a snippet of this video from CNN.
Marang lingkungan untuk pemerintah setempat.
Sejak Senin pagi, warga di sepanjang bantaran Sungai Cimeta, tepatnya di Desa Tagok Apu, Kecamatan Padalarang, Bandung Barat, Jawa Barat, dikejutkan dengan air sungai yang berwarna merah. Kejadian ini langsung dilaporkan warga ke petugas Citarum Harum. Dari hasil penelusuran, petugas menduga sumber pencemaran Sungai Cimeta berasal dari sebuah karung yang berisi bubuk pewarna. Sebelumnya, karung itu ditemukan warga di seputar Jalan Tagok Apu. Karena menutupi saluran air tanpa mengetahui isinya, karung tersebut kemudian dibuang oleh salah satu warga ke sungai.
So we don't need to look at the scientific facts to understand that this is not the way that nature should be treated. You know, the Citarum River turned red because of clothing dyes that were improperly disposed of, which were simply just tossed into the river. And the saddest part is that not all the environmental impacts of fashion are this visible. Okay, so the environmental impacts of fast fashion. Well, the fashion industry produces some of the worst environmental impacts of any industry. When it comes to water, it takes around 20,000 liters of water to produce this combo of a shirt, a t-shirt, and jeans. What does that mean? That is equivalent to the daily water needs of 200 people, as recommended by the UN. That's So aside from consumption, it also pollutes water sources. So like the scene in the Citarum, there's a lot of unregulated and illegal wastewater dumping that ends up in our rivers, which harms nature and our access to clean water. When it comes to energy, well, according to the BBC, the fact
Okay, are we having bad connections?
Oh, can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you.
I think my internet.
Yeah. There's a little bit lagging. So, okay, I think you're there. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, long story short, the current standard of producing fashion is extremely harmful to our planet. An overly consumptive and greedy mentality is stripping our planet of its finite resources. Familiar with fashion, you may have heard of the Rana Plaza collapse in 2013. So why is your t-shirt so cheap? Well, fast fashion is able to produce cheap garments because it exploits cheap labor. You save money because someone else pays the price. That money saved ends up, costing either people or the planet. There's no such thing as something cheap because something is always paid for. So the worst offense of this, again, occurred in 2013 when the Rana Plaza building collapsed in Dhaka, Bangladesh. This building was mainly used to produce fast fashion for brands like Benetton, Prada, Gucci, Walmart, and Versace. Now, these brands exploited cheap labor in Bangladesh, essentially modern-day slavery. The day before the accident, cracks had already appeared in the building. Workers who didn't want to go to work the next day were threatened by the owners that they would lose 1 month's gaji. So their salary is actually equivalent to around 500,000 rupiah per month. So workers were forced to return to work. And shortly after the day started, the entire building collapsed, which killed over 1,000 people and injuring over 2,000. To this day, some brands linked to the disaster still have not paid any compensation. So why are fast fashion brands accountable for something that happened all the way across the world in Bangladesh? Well, the pursuit of cheaper costs leads them to strong-arm factories, threatening to leave them for competition if factories don't lower their prices. This leads to factory owners and managers to cut workers' wages, as well as ignoring maintenance costs, which leads to events like the Rana Plaza collapse. Now, this, on a greater level, it comes from a lack of transparency and accountability to fashion brands. Although there has been some improvement in working conditions since then, there's still a long way to go. In general, Indonesia may be faring better than Bangladesh, but as the world's fourth largest country, how can we create the Indonesia we wish to see? A more sustainable and a more responsible one. So let's start with the basics. What is sustainability? Because a lot of people mistakenly think sustainability is just about the environmental factors. Well, sustainability is commonly defined as meeting our own needs without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs. And it's all, in general, really just about understanding the triple bottom line, or the 3 Ps of sustainability, and that's people, planet, and profit. How can we incorporate sustainability into a business model? Well, for some context, a few years ago, I took a course at Harvard, and they helped us understand there's a few different business models for understanding the business need for sustainability. So it's important when we incorporate sustainability into our business strategy, we need to find the right sweet spot where companies can both do well and do good. Cutting costs is one way of achieving this. So some firms are actually able to realize new efficiencies with sustainable practices, which leads to lower costs and increased profits. One example of this is when you think of maybe a packaging company. They start to use recycled paper inputs instead of purchasing new materials, so they save on their cost, which leads to a greater profit. Raising prices is a pretty common way to do this within the current sustainable fashion. So this raising prices when you charge a premium when adopting sustainable business practices. Now, in my eyes, this is not actually something that's more expensive, but it's a product that factors in the true cost of production, because workers are being paid fairly and the environmental costs are being factored in as well. So that is one model. The next one is to increase your market share. So firms can choose to leverage their sustainable practices to increase their market share, which helps them to compete with non-sustainable alternatives. By remaining price competitive, firms can entice customers to switch to their product. I think this is one of the most important aspects in maintaining and running a sustainable business. If we can match the price, quality, and comfort of the standard product, but also include a sustainable edge, then sustainable businesses can win over customers over their standard competitors. That's the added advantage of being sustainable first. And finally, entirely new business models can be developed from sustainable business practices. So an example of this is clean or renewable energy. As for my business, Topiku, we're a combination of all of the above. And it is hard for us in the short term, but we're starting to see the long-term benefits as we continue to scale. So driving a change at scale. Well, purpose-driven firms have a huge advantage in pioneering innovation. That being said, being a trailblazer requires courage, determination, and the capacity to delay returns, even at the expense of a short-term loss. Sadly, markets are dominated by what's called a shareholder value. So that's where success is only really measured by financial returns. Alternatively, a stakeholder value maximizes value for all stakeholders, customers, employees, communities, when decisions are being made. And being the first to market with a sustainable innovation can provide a first mover advantage. And there are also potential disadvantages for being a first mover. There's increased costs that competitors do not face. And since consumers usually don't like paying more for sustainable products, firms need to try and convince their competitors to make the switch together. Now, how does change occur? Well, one possible way is the wheel of change. So an industry can tip and become sustainable when the business case for generating shared value is shared. So this starts moving the wheel. Diffusing this change to competitors leads to industry cooperation, and shifting consumer behaviors, investor behavior, or regulations lock the change in place. Now, this only happens when we have multiple stakeholders involved, and individuals must play their part in raising awareness and advocating for the issues they care about. So what can you do? Well, for one, you can start or work with an entrepreneurial company. In this setting, you have a lot more freedom and flexibility to test out a new business model. And as a member of a small team, you actually can see the impact you're making. Number two, work for a company that is committed to making a difference and demonstrate that you know what you're doing. So it may appear as though big decisions are made by people on the top, but your voice is important no matter your title. Number three, work for an organization that is 100% committed to pushing the sustainability agenda. This would be working for an NGO or a yayasan that aligns with your beliefs. And in this type of organization, you can work with a wide variety of partners and be on the front lines of fighting bigger issues. Being an entrepreneur and a change maker is not easy, though.
Okay, I think there's a little bit. Okay, your connection is interrupted again.
Yeah.
Okay, can you say something again?
Test.
Right. So yeah, let's continue. I think you said about being entrepreneur is not easy. Oh, he disconnected. Okay. Oh, you're still there.
Okay. Sorry, my internet's crazy. Can you hear me?
Right. I can hear you clearly now.
Okay, great. Yeah. Let me start sharing my screen again.
Go ahead.
Cool. Okay, so I'm not sure where I dropped off last, but there are different ways that we can help to play our part with making a difference through business. But being an entrepreneur and change maker is not easy. And I actually never planned on being one. But I do feel optimistic that by changing my world with localized impact, I am playing my part in changing the whole world. So at Topiku, our founding philosophy is of transparency and accountability. So I'm going to show you guys now a behind the scenes look at our production process.
With Topiku, we're out to show the apparel industry that trash isn't just the problem, it is also the solution. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Weiss, and I'm Regional Director of Topiku. Topiku means my hat in Indonesian, and what we do is we craft premium headwear that's completely made out of upcycled and recycled materials. Each of them are hand-stitched by artisans in Cigondewa, Indonesia. At Topiku, we use no virgin materials. By utilizing only upcycled and recycled materials, we leave a significantly smaller carbon footprint than factory-based production methods. We've taken several years of careful vetting and sourcing to make sure that we have the right high-quality leftovers and dead stocks to bring to artisans to use. The reason we work with artisans is because we want to promote sustainable development within the communities that we work in, and also by bringing their talents to the world market, we're able to pay our artisans double the minimum wage.
Perkenalkan, nama Usep, suka dipanggil Messi-nya Indonesia, Messi-nya Cigondewa lah gitu. Lahir di Tasikmalaya, tapi masih sekitaran Jawa Barat, Bandung, masih Bandung lah. Awal mula dulu saya sekolah cuma sampai SD ya, langsung ikut ke Bandung sama kakak saya. Masih ngejahit sama istri berdua, terus cari PO sendiri, ya akhirnya ketemu sama yang punya Topiku. Ya pasti aneh lah, masa kan di sini kalau udah sedikit kita buang lah jadi sampah, tapi pas ketemu sama Topiku dibikin topi malah mantap lah, malah bagus gitu.
So where we source our batik is from a local batik designer based in Solo. For the base of our hats, we use GOTS certified organic cotton dead stock. For our brims, we utilize HDPE plastic bucket recycling. And because each hat is handmade, once a particular design is put on a hat, it is gone.
Nama saya Rian Herianti, umur 28 tahun. Pekerjaan saya manajer di S12. Tugas saya mengatur semua karyawan dan cek semua produksi. Untuk pertama mungkin pembelian atau pengumpulan bahan-bahan barang bekas seperti ember yang pecah atau gimana. Nanti masuk ke mesin penggilingan supaya diolah menjadi kecil-kecil seperti yang kemarin. Nanti masukin ke dalam air. Maksudnya masuk ke dalam air itu supaya bisa menyortir, ada batu, ada besi di sana gitu. Dikeringkan seperti kemarin, dijemur, bisa sehari 2 hari dijemur. Nanti setelah proses itu dihalusin lagi. Sebelum diproses dihalusin lagi, masuk ke mesin. Nah, baru dikasih obat, dimasukin ke mesin pencetakan. Dari jahit kan ada yang proses ciput, jahit, terus terakhir finishing, pasang kancing, button ya, pasang button.
Kalau buat masyarakat desa sekitar sini mah sangat membantu. Terus kan di sini topinya ibaratnya kerjaan yang paling utama, usaha yang paling utama di wilayah desa Rahayu ini.
Untuk pengaruh kehidupan dari produk seperti ini ya alhamdulillah. Kita dulunya ngontrak, sekarang udah punya hasil lah, lumayan buat istirahat sama anak-anak juga.
Kalau senangnya ya bisa kumpul sama nambah teman lagi. Kayak gitu. Ya udah kayak keluarga.
We know that Topiku can't single-handedly offset nationwide pollution, but through our success of our model, hopefully we'll be able to inspire younger entrepreneurs to be more environmentally conscious, as well as show large apparel brands that there's a demand for sustainable products like ours. Each of our hats have a unique story. This is yours.
Okay. So at Topiku, our founding philosophy again is of transparency and accountability. We offer easy access to our story because we are proud of where our products come from. Part of what enables us to stand out from the huge sea of sustainable fashion players is actually our commitment to authenticity. So we at Topiku understand our role in the sustainability movement and how we can create a positive impact in the communities we work with. So we are huge believers in the power of responsible business practices as the catalyst for systemic change, scalable solutions that can grow from one village to the next. And, moving forward, how did the idea of Topiku come about? Well, it started when I learned about upcycling. And for context, I mentioned earlier, I accidentally became an entrepreneur. Well, in the summer of 2014, I had actually just failed my first year of university. So I flew back from California to Jakarta to do some social work. And this is when I learned about upcycling. So what is upcycling? Well, upcycling is the reuse of materials in a way to create a product of higher quality or higher value than the original. Well, let's be honest, when we see this skateboard bench, is it really upcycling if it's uncomfortable? Does it have more utility now that it's a bench? And how about that beer box cowboy hat? Is that really usable? Well, we must be careful when we reuse waste that we don't create more waste, because that would be downcycling. Now, it was a particular post-industrial waste byproduct that had actually caught my eye. So that was vinyl upholstery used for car seats. So apparently at the time, the Indonesian market for cars only demanded leather. Well, Japanese cars would be imported with this upholstery seat, and this vinyl upholstery would be tossed. And this perfectly usable material was deemed as trash, even if it wasn't used. I saw a lot of potential applications for this material and wanted to discover more similar waste byproducts. Think about this. If one car company was doing this with one car model, imagine how many thousands of other industrial processes were throwing away perfectly usable material. Now, at the time, I was growing my hair out and wore a lot of hats to cover my bad hair days. Well, I thought the vinyl upholstery would be a great substitute for the fabric used in my hat. Thus, Topiku was born. Here are the actually original 2 prototypes I made in the summer of 2014. So they were made out of, again, this car seat upholstery, along with some offcuts from leather shoes and leftover batik as well. It was this prototype that set me on an accidental journey of entrepreneurship. And although it was more initially a creative art project, I went back to school where I would meet my future business partner. In March 2015, we set out to launch a social enterprise that would sell the world's most sustainable hats. 10 months later, we successfully launched by a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign. It's like Kita Bisa, and we managed to raise 21,000 USD. So Topiku today. Topiku is now in its 7th year of operations. We have refined our designs in an effort to balance sustainable design with aesthetic design. I mentioned this earlier, but it's important to say it again. Products designed with sustainable methods must meet the current standards of price, quality, durability, and aesthetics as the standards of today. Sustainable businesses will only create an impact if we can sell our products to the larger main market of so I'm not going to go too deep with it, but essentially create direct partnerships with textile and garment manufacturers to upcycle their post-industrial waste as inputs for our hats. So we upcycle GOTS certified organic cotton 12 from curtain production leftovers. We'll work with athletic shoe producers and take the leftover mesh from those productions. We'll work with local pemulung. Essentially, the transparency and traceability comes from us literally going down and figuring out where every component comes from and choosing where all these inputs come from. So that's a big competitive advantage of ours. So the Topiku supply chain is our business model and our competitive advantage. So pictured here is a rough outline of our supply chain. When we make a change, we cannot be too idealistic. Creating a systemic change requires us to play by the rules to create scalable solutions. Change happens when we have all stakeholders involved: people, businesses, and government. To really drive change, the pressure needs to come from grassroots innovations. If people can spread awareness and businesses can show that being sustainable is actually financially beneficial or profitable, then we can start to influence governments at the top to enact regulations that will ripple across our industries. This ultimately requires financial sustainability. Unfortunately, we cannot expect to create an impactful business if the finances don't make sense. Furthermore, it is imperative if we have a community of beneficiaries who are dependent on us, we must create a solution or business model that will survive more than a handful of years. Human capital. Well, by selling to the international market, we are able to pay our artisans living wages of nearly double the local minimum wage. Why? Well, instead of preaching about the dangers of plastics and littering, we actually believe that a more effective tool for teaching rural communities about the power of sustainability is actually to show them the value of sustainability. So again, we don't preach, we show them the value. Sustainability is nothing without the social component of it. So we believe in the power of human capital. Even environmentalism is rooted in a social motivation. Being eco-minded means we protect nature, but ultimately, nature would be better off without humans. So no, environmental sustainability is actually about the pursuit of finding balance and harmony in which humans can coexist with nature. So, main takeaway from this section, I will just tell you right out, like, social sustainability is by far the most important and only type of sustainability, really, because environmental sustainability and financial sustainability are all there to support the social part. So if that's a main takeaway, I would love you guys to walk away with today. But from investing in human capital, we actually create the foundation for a scalable business. A team that trusts our lead has a higher productivity and creates better quality products. So onto our carbon footprint. So presented here is actually the world's first product carbon footprint report for a baseball cap. And this is the first time that a company is presenting this publicly. So we believe all consumers should have access to, you know, the story of how their products are made. That's why we're called Topiku, my hat. Take ownership of your product that you own. Well, what is a carbon footprint report? Essentially, it measures all the production, materials, distribution, the use of a product. So last year, we emitted around 5.2 tons of carbon dioxide, and that was made up of each hat emitting around half a kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalents. So even though we emitted 5.2 tons, we offset around 194 tons through our certification with climate neutral. It's around 37x as much as we emitted. Well, what does that mean? Because I'm just throwing numbers at you guys. Well, when we compare our emissions, we unfortunately can't compare them to a standard baseball cap because no one's released that data yet. We do have data for the standard cotton t-shirt or a pair of running shoes. So Topiku, essentially you can create 3 Topiku hats for 1 pair of running shoes and one cotton t-shirt. And the energy it takes to produce a polyester dress, you can produce 5 Topiku hats. So beyond our environmental commitments, we create strategic partnerships with various nonprofits. As we continue to grow, we'd like to call ourselves the official hat of change makers. So this year, we just launched our first activewear hat with Sungai Watch. So this was actually outfitting their 60 river warriors with water resistant, UV resistant headwear so that they can continue to clean up rivers and have a durable product that, you know, can survive the tough working conditions. With Bye Bye Plastic Bags, we actually fund the printing of waste management education books, which are distributed to Indonesian school kids across the country. Later this year, we'll be working with the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation to outfit their field team with activewear caps. And we're actually going to be also working with anti-rhino poachers in both Sumatra and Zimbabwe through the IRF to, again, outfit their anti-poachers with activewear caps. So, you know, essentially we define activewear as for those who are actively making a difference. It's not just about sports to us. So we provide these nonprofits with quality products and ones that align with their ethos and mentality. So now I'd like to show you a little, you know, closer look of our collaboration with Sungai Watch. Uh-oh. All right, if this doesn't load, that's all right. Okay, just gonna skip the video for now, and we'll definitely, I can share the link with you guys later when it's live, but yeah, don't think that's gonna load.
No worries, no worries. I think you can actually share the link later on.
Okay, no worries. So essentially, let's talk about the challenges of sustainable production. Well, our products may appear more expensive because we factor in the true cost, something I mentioned earlier. Standard products have a cheaper price tag because it comes at the expense of the environment or the well-being of workers. Sustainable products accommodate the triple bottom line to ensure all costs, not just financial, are factored into the business model. When you're working with upcycling, you might have issues of scalability. We definitely encountered that. So working with offcuts or scraps can be very limiting. It can add issues to scalability in terms of production. When we talk about artisan production versus traditional factory production-based methods, well, there's more informal structures, there's less advanced machinery, quality consistency issues, longer turnovers, it's slower and harder to meet deadlines. There's the list of issues goes on, and, you know, honestly speaking, I deal with a lot of production headaches from working with artisans. But if we are able to meet the challenges of establishing a sustainable business model, then we can become a competitive player. Other businesses will try to copy us, and others will just want to work with us. So our collaborations, developing our supply chain in this way has allowed us to pivot. The challenge of being too early to market with our first products and not understanding the challenges of building a stylish lifestyle brand forced us to adapt to survive. We leveraged our unique selling point, our supply chain, and our story. Our honest pursuit for sustainability and having the ability to authenticate it has allowed us to build a transparent and traceable supply chain. We don't just sell hats. We sell a valuable, feel-good story, a story and image that other brands want to use and be associated with. Yes, our physical product is a hat, but what we actually sell is a positive brand image. The competitive advantage of a business that balances profit with purpose is being able to sell a tangible product, but with a greater meaning. Custom headwear now makes up around 95% of our annual revenue. It's not our product that allows us to open these doors, but our business model and philosophy. People love a good story, and with us, our customers know it is genuine and real. So moving forward, it is really important to also have third-party certifications for a business, because you can always just keep talking, but to have someone actually verify and validate that is really important moving forward for sustainability. You know, generally within sustainability, there will come a phase after all ahead of the curve and start working with that without the regulations. So, you know, we currently have memberships for 1% for the planet. If you are currently a business, I highly recommend 1% for the planet. It's a great community and it's very easy to, I don't want to say the word easy, but it's a lot more accessible for brands to access. Climate neutral, on the other hand, a little bit hard to access, but essentially it helps you to offset your carbon footprint. Kind of like the cream of the crop, the best thing to have is B Corp for sustainable businesses, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. So we currently, we submitted our application about a few months ago, and yeah, hopefully everything goes well and we get that certification. Closing thoughts. Well, if we think back to what makes us happy, maybe it's recycling, maybe it's helping others, maybe it's being mindful. We will find that creating a responsible business can be very fulfilling. Businesses can be the catalyst for systemic change if we balance profit with purpose. But in order to do that, we must first create a business model that makes sense financially. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. By operating with a sustainable mindset, we are shooting ourselves in the foot compared to our competition. This adds obstacles and challenges to our growth in the short term. But the key word is short term. If we keep our eyes on our goal and stay authentic, we can be among the wave of first movers, creating and integrating the norms and the standards of tomorrow with the demand of today. We won't have to play catch up to changing consumer demands. We won't have to look for desperate lifelines when we're hit with negative press. Ultimately, sustainability isn't just a trend, it's the inevitable new standard of tomorrow. And let's not be afraid to jump into the journey of entrepreneurship and responsible business practices. We have to take a chance and look forward to failure. Most of you are university students. This is the best time to fail. You only grow and learn through failing. And through failing, we learn and we reiterate. That's what being an entrepreneur and a change maker is all about. We can create the world that we wish to see. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Monty. I think that was so amazing. So you're not just giving a profile of your companies, but you also give us insight how to become, a more responsible businessman. And also, I have a lot of questions actually. I have a lot of questions, definitely. So when you're presenting this materials, I also just got the beats that you're also explaining about design thinking process. You're also explaining about how this product is related with sustainability. And sustainability is not just about one thing. You mentioned about the triple bottom line, which is the people, the profit, and the planet. And it's incorporated into one thing. But probably the first question that I would like to ask you, why hat?
For sure. I honestly think every time I do a presentation, everyone always asks this question.
Exactly.
They like to ask, where are the other products? Well, actually, when we launched, we had a few different products. We made like t-shirts made out of bamboo cotton, and I think we made bandanas out of scraps. Long story short, it was just, we wanted to really make sure that being authentic with our business model, we wanted to make sure that we were actually making a difference, because we didn't want to just be working with the community and saying we're making a difference. We wanted to be able to track that. And starting out, early on, we're still a small business. When we spread ourselves too thin, it's really easy to, not meet your goals in regards to authentically creating a sustainable change. Now, what I mean by that is, from us working together with hat makers, with one community for 7 years, we've actually been able to track, the progress of how much change is being made. And we get to have a lot more accountability in regards to, the sourcing of our products. When it comes to sustainability, again, I've talked about accountability and traceability. Well, if you have too many products, too many different supply chains, you're probably going to miss something along the way. And that will, at least us as a genuine sustainable brand, that's concerning to us. So we stay on one product because, we want to make sure that we can create an impact. And once that model works for one village, we move on to the next. And that's about it.
Right. I think that's also part of the sweet spot innovations that you also talked about before. So whether people would like to use it, whether people would like to wear it. And I think you have done a lot of long process, right? To make sure that this is the final product they would like to create it. So amazing. So amazing, bro. So you even hired Messi from Bandung, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean that's again, when we talk about sustainability, you need to think about the economicals, the environments, and the social aspects. So you succeed to make sure all of those things actually run together within your business. And I can see that this is not just a business, right? This is how to make sure the sustainability that you mentioned previously. It's about how we can preserve something for the future generations. It's still there, and you're not gonna exploit about the business itself, about the money itself, right? We're trying to maintain everything to make sure that everything is going to work well in the future. So another questions for me before I gonna ask the audience. I think that there's a lot of questions coming on, and I also have this group saying that I would like to have a business like Monty. So yeah, I don't know. I think you're today's inspirations. Okay. Difficulties, challenge. So we know that many of our students in BINUS, we have a lot of interest for creating new business, right? But one thing that always appear when we're trying to create the new business is difficulties, is challenge. We don't know how we start. And if we start, we are afraid to be failed, right? And trying to incorporate business with sustainability is something that can be considered difficult. So can you explain, or probably can you tell us what kind of difficulties, what are the challenge, and how you can cope with that when the first time you start your business?
Totally. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that occurred during the whole process. Number one was actually, a few months after we successfully launched, my original co-founder was was unavailable to work with me. He had like a medical emergency and was out of the picture. And then later down the line, 2019, I was actually about to quit because we were not doing well financially, like right before the pandemic. It's really hard to be a sustainable brand because, again, we factor in all these different costs involved, and we have limited resources compared to the competition. And then we want to do all these extra things. Well, all that added pressure can be really difficult to manage, I would say. And essentially, what needs to happen within a sustainable business is you have to think of the finances first, ultimately. Like if you're just starting out as a fashion brand and you want to have the most expensive premium sustainable material, well, a lot of the time we can't afford to buy the nicest recycled polyester material or whatnot for our product. It's a lot more important to think about your finances again. So how can you continue to scale up? You need to make sure you have that business model down first before you start to have all the sustainable aspects. Now, why is that important? Well, if you don't have financial, sustainability, then your business is not going to last, and then you're not going to create an impact. And at the end of the day, if you want to create a sustainable business, the business does have to come. Is perfect. The nice thing is ability kind of gets to continually improve, over time. So when you do have, let's say you're a fashion brand, well, you could say, okay, this year we're making a product out of 50% recycled materials. We'll set the target. We want to be 100% recycled by the next 2 years. Sustainability gives you those benchmarks where you can continually improve year after year. I do think it's also important to mention that you do have to find what makes you authentic. I got asked this question in my last presentation where someone was asking about they have a sustainable fashion brand, and then another fashion brand uses the same materials, and they're just wondering like, oh, like how do you stay competitive? Well, the truth is any brand, regardless of your industry, can have access to the same materials as you. And another truth, even bigger players can get even more of that material at a cheaper price than you. Your materials are not who you are. That's not who your business is. You have to kind of find out what that identity is so you can have that clear brand and mission statement that you are doing something. And we can't be complaining that other competitors have access to the same recycled materials. We should be happy. That means the industry is changing and that new standards are being put in place and that we have to do more to stay competitive. I mean, I think that's exciting. And, it is a cutthroat kind of industry when you are in business. My biggest advice I could say is fail and fail early, because then you will be able to, recover from that. If you have the courage and the determination, that is definitely one of the most important aspects of running a sustainable business.
Right. Thanks, Monty. So we do really like to say that fail earlier, and then you are the proof that by failing now you can become this successful kind of thing. So students, remember that it's not just a theory, so it's a fact now, and it's mentioned by Monty. So before I give the Q&A sessions, so wow, this is quite a lot of people. We have 335 people, and there's also a chat, where can we purchase your product? I share your Instagrams to my students. I also share the link of your websites. I think you're gonna say something about where we can actually find your products, Monty?
For sure. So we actually are going through a little bit of a relaunch on our Indonesian e-commerce. Right. So hopefully by the end of the month, all our products will be available on Tokopedia. And we actually offer a 50% discount for all Indonesian consumers. So the hats are priced at around 250 thou. And that's 50% down from what they're sold internationally.
Okay. So Tokopedia it is. So let's just wait for that. So he would like to buy it. So let's just wait for it. Or probably you can try to have some chat with the admin in Instagram or in the websites first. Okay, let's go with the Q&A. So we have Atira here raising her hand.
Sorry, sir. I was going to ask about pretty much the same question as you did, because I had two questions and you literally asked the same before I get to ask.
Okay.
It's actually about the product itself. So I get that from our speaker, Monty, that he said, consideration about the product itself. Why do they only sell hats? So yeah, that's about it. But also my second question, now that you mentioned my name, I'm sorry, Maria, I have to ask because I'm already saying. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, how do you put your product out there, especially to reach the younger people? So not only that they become aware of what's happening, the environment, about sustainability, all that, so that not only they become aware, but also like get them, at least the same motivation to probably start a business or do the same. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
No, yeah, that's a great question, Atira, and I also love your profile picture. That's a funny cat. So anyway, in regards to sustainability, well, a big part of how do we find more sustainable consumers is through education and awareness. That's kind of like the first phase of sustainability, is education and raising awareness. Why do people need to care about purchasing your product? Why is your product better than what is already sold right now? That's the most important thing you need to do first. I think as businesses, as sustainable, responsible businesses, we have to play that role within education. And when I was first starting out, I did a lot of pop-up shops. And honestly speaking, I realized people weren't buying my products because of the design. Because I'll be fully honest with you, my first 2 years, my products were so ugly. Like people were not buying them because they thought the design was cool. They bought it because they liked the story, because they would stop by my booth and I would talk to them about the story, and then they would buy the product. I would say that wouldn't generally be just like a straight sustainability eco consumer, but more of a regular consumer. So education is super important, and start small. I think, an issue with a lot of, pressure from being a sustainable business, or let's say the term change the world, that is such a daunting and near impossible task. But, changing the world really should be about your localized impact. Change your world. That's what it should be. So as a business, what does changing your world mean? That means along your supply chain, to your consumers, to your employees. As a business, we have a lot of beneficiaries, and these beneficiaries, again, they're either our employees, there are suppliers, there are consumers. We need to focus on impacting them first, positively, and then you'll start to see the ripple effects. So yeah, start local, start small, and educate first.
Okay, I hope that's answered Atira's question. So I have a very enthusiastic person here. She always asks everything about these kind of things. And here we go. Elsa, please go.
Hi, Mandy, nice to meet you.
Okay.
So my question is, do you plan to expand your human capital farther than Chigondewa to also give other hat makers the opportunity they may not have in areas other than Chigondewa?
Definitely. I mean, the goal is to expand to other communities. We have started working with some other home industries in Tasikmalaya. That's more for a separate program of hat production that we do. Essentially, the issue with working with other communities is kind of like a product consistency. It's not quality consistency, but just like, different hat making artisans have their different panel sizes and whatnot. So keeping those consistent requires time and dedication. And full disclosure, we're actually only a team of 2 people working full time on Topiku. So, our resources are quite limited. In the future, as we continue to grow our team, I'm definitely looking to spend more time on the ground. But essentially, I still want to make sure that the model I create for one village works for other villages. So the coolest thing about the pandemic, if I'm allowed to say that, is surviving the pandemic as a business. And the thing about our hat makers in Desa Rahayu Cigondewa is they normally created cheap topi pasar. Like, when you go to Bali and you see those cheap hats on the side of the road, that's normally what they're producing. So essentially what we did is we introduced them a new premium product. And guess what? The pandemic hit in April 2020. All the demand for cheap topi pasar went to zero. There was none of them being produced in the village. But then month after month, there was more and more Topiku hats being made. So we demonstrated the financial resilience of Topiku through the pandemic, to the point that the Kepala RW came to visit me in Jakarta in January and essentially said they're never going to make cheap topi pasar. They just want to make topi premium. And he asked for my help in building a waste management system in the village. So we're working on all that right now. And that, to me, validated. I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of teared up when he came up and told me that, because I was like, wow, like our business model is actually working. That was the important thing of us developing a long-term relationship with one community, to be able to be authentic, to measure the impact, to know growing fast and growing big and growing as fast as possible. And a lot of your authenticity gets lost along the way. So it's definitely, with sustainability, be patient. We are going to go to other communities, but we want to make sure that what we do works first.
If I may add, I actually hovered over your website. How did you get featured in MIT, if I may ask?
Oh yeah, my brother actually goes to school there. He's in a graduate program, so I did a talk over there. Like, what was that, like 2 months ago? Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you, Monty.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elsa, for the questions. Okay, I have another one. Consulta Gian, go ahead.
Hi, very good afternoon to you guys. Still morning, but yeah, menjelang siang. My name is Ian. I'm from actually Singapore, one of the online students for business management in BINUS online school. I just like to know more about the Topiku. Do you have a plan to go franchising this brand to another person? And if ever you are going to, and how you gonna do that for your business? Is it like kemitraan or lepas apa namanya? We call it like beli putus, something like that. So a lot of franchising brands are happening right now. Then there's also a lot of expos coming in this 17th of June in BSD. Before last week, there was also an expo in JCC. If Topiku has a plan to go franchise, or how do you gonna run that?
Totally. No, I mean, when we talk about franchising, that's definitely not something we have never really thought about. If anything, there's a few different ways to create impact, and one of them is considered direct impact, and the other one's called indirect impact. And what I mean by that is, like, you could be one business, let's say Topiku, that's creating change in all these different areas, or you could go for the indirect impact, which is about having the industry create change. I'm more of a believer about that indirect path. I don't want to be responsible for doing everything. I'm doing my part, and I'm doing it well because I'm at a small scale. But if other businesses can see our financial success and be inspired and want to be able to go more socially and environmentally responsible, then I think we've played our part. And there's definitely other ways to, I guess, get into this industry. We're kind of cementing ourselves as like a global leader within sustainable production, and that's purely just because of good SEO. I highly recommend having good SEO, and if you're looking for that niche to tackle within your business, you just look for a niche. Don't go into any oversaturated market. There's way too many organic cotton t-shirts out there, you know, and building a lifestyle brand is really, really hard. But if you look at, you know, finding your niche market, then you can really, you know, succeed. So, you know, there's not a lot of room for players within all these fashion brands. And I think of a mindset, you do have to think of your direct competitors. Like, let's say Topiku, our direct competitor is actually someone like Nike, who sells a hat, because we want to win over the consumer that's thinking about buying. You know, we want to be on that same equal footing. So I definitely think it's important to find your niche. Not one business needs to be responsible for doing everything. I honestly don't see us franchising at all in the future. But we, you know, I'll be sticking with Topiku for the long run. I'm not looking to just run out with an exit strategy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Consulta. So yeah, I think we can have a look at the chat box. So yeah, I think this is Melissa. So she said, hello, thank you so much for sharing. My group and I are planning to make a research journal titled Are Grades a Determinant of Entrepreneurial Success? And they are wondering if they can have the opportunity to interview you and get to know your experiences during university. I think this is not the place to have the interview, but if you don't mind, probably, do you have a platform that someone can contact you, or probably can have share something with you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can actually just even DM me on Instagram, and I'll check that out.
Nice. Okay. So you need to go to Monty's Instagram. So
yeah,
it's the Topiku Instagram, right?
Sorry, that's Topiku
right.
Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right. Okay. So probably I would like to give the opportunity to the lecturers. Probably, I think we have so many lecturers attending this session. So lecturers, do you would like to say something or ask something regarding what Monty's do? No one? A bit shy?
Hi, Pak Sukma. Hi, Monty.
Hi.
Okay. Hello, Bu Ayu. So, okay. You look fresh, Bu.
Thank you, Pak. Maybe because I'm at home.
Yeah, you're at home. So, okay. Go ahead, Bu Ayu.
Yes, I really enjoyed your story in how you built your business, Monty, and I think it rings true to a lot of our students, and I think it encourages a lot of our students to start thinking not only being an entrepreneur, but how to become a sustainable entrepreneur. I'd like to ask you a question, because I think you said you went back to Indonesia because you failed one semester in the States, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think it's a blessing in disguise. Now that if you look back, now you can say it's a blessing in disguise. But what makes you decided that, hey, I'm back home, why not trying just to go to school? Why decided I'm just gonna go ahead and start a business or start a project?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that stems from a few different places. One concept I'm actually thinking about a little bit more lately is like being a mixed kid who grew up, culturally as American, but when I'm over there, I'm a foreigner. When I'm over in Indonesia, I'm a foreigner. So, there's a lot of identity crisis that us mixed kids go through. One thing for me is I think I kind of tried to embrace my uniqueness and try to find my own path. That definitely led me to looking for unique experiences. One thing that really helped me along the way, so for context, I actually did have some I did have my own share of mental health battles when it came to insecurity and social anxieties growing up. It's actually funny for me to be doing public speaking right now because Originally, it was just supposed to be my partner doing all that stuff. So I think the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship and running a sustainable business is even when I didn't know who I was, I know who I wanted my company to be. I knew the values of what I had, like even before I knew who I was. So that kind of gave me this cool kind of roadmap to stumbling upon entrepreneurship, creating a responsible business just because it felt right, and being able to hide behind this mask of a company that clearly knew who it was when I had no idea who I was. So, across the journey of 7 years, failing university, not having access to my co-founder, I really got challenged a lot because, background wise, I am a creative. Like I like to do music and graphic design. But here I am like running my own company, doing supply chain things. Like everything all just came apart because I stuck true to my values. I think it's as straightforward as that.
Okay, thank you. Can I have one more question, Pak Sukma?
Can you? I think you can.
Of course.
Right. Do you think college education is important?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing that I didn't do during college was networking. In regards to using your actual degree, I personally feel like your undergraduate degree is a lot about your own personal development.
Okay, connections issue.
Oh, hello?
Now
I'm
you're there.
good?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I personally think that, like your undergraduate education is less about knowing what you're going to do professionally and more about understanding who you are as a person. And then your graduate school is a little bit more for that, okay, I'm going to become a chemical engineer or whatnot. So I do think, college is very important, and education is great for, that ability to be able to get your foot in the door and try different things out. Because my whole life, I thought I wanted to be an architect. And then that's why I went to architecture school at USC. And then I failed my first year because I was still dealing with a lot of like my own personal, I guess, personal growth journey. Yeah. So I think, university is definitely important. And the best thing you can take away, in my opinion, is the networking aspect of it.
Networking.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Monty. Thank you, Pak Sukma.
Thank you, Ayu. Okay. So let's check again the chat box. I think this is quite funny as well, but I do really would like to know your answers. It's from Calvin Gibran. So the question is, what would you differently if you were in my age, and what do you wish that you would have known if you were in my age? And I don't know what is Calvin age currently, but I assume that he is a student, undergraduate students. So what will be your answer?
Let's see. Well, so for context, I mean, I am 27 and like, it's pretty fresh out of college. When I was your age, I definitely wish I knew that, honestly, the more I do business, because I'm not traditionally business trained, is just networking is everything. People do business with you if you're a good person. And I think since we're a brand that has good values, people want to do business with us. So if you think with that mindset, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like we're not on this planet for a long time. Why don't we just be good people and help each other out as much as we can until we're gone? So with that in mind, I think it's very important to think about your own values. What do you think is the best version of Calvin? What does the best version of Calvin do? How does he treat other people? I think once you have those things as in terms of underlying values, that can kind of give you a benchmark. Understanding your values does give you a sort of a pathway to finding out where you're supposed to be. And especially when we're in our like teenage to younger, early 20s, we have a lot of issues when it comes to identity. So I think finding out those and understanding those values definitely gives you like a guiding north light to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Thanks, Monty. I think that's very true as well. So I mean, there's a lot of students as well. They don't know where they would like to go, right? And what they need to do as well. So I think determinations and deciding what you want to be is one thing that we need to focus on. So because just like what you said, because I see a lot of determinations with you and how you can develop this business. And again, it's an inspiration for all of us. So yeah, I think Calvin, I hope that's answering your questions. Okay, another thing. My name is Amelia. It is interesting that you have a solid team who have been working for you for many years. So what do you think the most important thing is to make our workers stay and have that sense of loyalty to your companies, loyalties to your company?
That's a great question.
Exactly.
So, working with the same community for 7 years, I think what made us, essentially, it's just being open, transparent, and being able to validate that they should trust your lead. Because it's one thing to come up to say to someone like, hey, trust me. And then it's one thing to actually show them, hey, like, let me show you how that's done. I think the coolest part about just treating people with respect is the first thing, is that they respect you back when you earn their trust. I have worked with obviously a good amount of brands over the years for custom hat manufacturing, and because of our transparency, a few Indonesian brands have actually tried to skip us and just go straight to our manufacturers.
Okay.
Guess what? Our artisans don't make hats for those other people when they try to skip us. They're like, mau minta topi daur ulang kayak topiku. Like our artisans just say, go contact Topiku then. Cause like they respect us. They love the way we treat them with, investing into facilities. Like the most simple things, like I saw when our first visit, like, kipas angin was very tua and like raggedy. So like I got them a new fan. Like, like this is like some gift giving is good. It's investing into facilities. It's just treating them like human beings. It's not just having conversations that are like, I want 100 hats, and then you leave. Like I spend time hanging out with them. I sit down with them. I treat them like humans. I sit on the floor with them. I eat dinner with them. It's all about understanding, I guess, those things. It's all just human to human interactions. Don't think about it as you're a brand buying from a supplier, because that's when you lose the whole aspect of what makes us human and why we do business and why we create impact.
As simple as that. So by just giving us simple actions, that they giving you their loyalty, but that's rewards. I mean, it's just little things, but you can actually feel the benefit. And I do really agree with that. That's more humans. Okay. I think this is going to be the last questions before we do the closing kind of things. And I think this is from Nisa. Hello, thank you for educating us about a business. Me as the person who currently studying about business, and I'm undergraduate student. So the most important thing in a business is when the business can survive in any situations like industrial revolutions. So how you can survive in the middle of industrial revolutions, and any brand advance, and what is your strategy?
So when we look at like what's it called? I don't know the exact business term because I didn't go to business school, but when you look at like the graph of how an industry evolves over time, you have the innovators, then there's this huge like hockey stick growth, and then it matures out. Well, like it's always going to be a repeating pattern. Once it hits that, I guess, more stable, mature place, then there's room for another innovator to come up, hockey stick that up, and then it gets mature again. So innovation's always happening. It's just like walking up a staircase. So you just always have to be aware and of changing consumer trends. And sometimes you do have to gamble. Nothing is safe. If you're just going to just sit there and wait for a change to happen, then you're going to miss out on opportunities and wish that you invested into Google before they blew up. Like there's always going to be innovators. There's always going to be something new. So you can't just stay stagnant. We need to be dynamic and continue to grow. And the important thing with sustainability. Why do I say that sustainability is the inevitable, new standard of tomorrow? Well, if we continue business as is, the planet's going to die, and there's not going to be enough resources. There's not going to be enough materials to even create a product out of it. So by getting ahead of the curve, even in a place like Indonesia, or even for me in the US, I'm very, I don't believe that governments will create regulations anytime soon, because just nothing is happening in the US. That's why I believe businesses drive change. Well, I do think there will be global, regulations on these sorts of things coming up within, the future. So why wait for that government regulation to come down? Why don't you just meet that? And you can only really be aware of that if you're thinking about the future as your business, staying competitive. So once, like, for example, for us, now that we have met the needs of what we determine as sustainability, now we can start to look at circularity, so that when other competitors come, we're already ahead of the curve again. We like to stay ahead of the curve. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, you do have to look at those sorts of aspects on always reinventing yourself. For example, with me sharing my presentation more companies might want to try to copy my supply chain, which is totally fine. But then I'm going to continue to reinvent myself so that no one can catch up to me. And that's kind of the mindset that I want to keep as a competitive business. I can share what I share, but I also need to think about my financial health, and I'm always going to stay competitive.
Right. Okay. Never stop innovate. Okay. That's good point as well. So do we still have time to have another questions?
I think we have Sukma, maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Oh, 1 or 2 questions. So there's one in the chat box. So I think, Monty, if you can answer this very quickly, that would be great. So as a leader of our own business, do we need to allow the staff to involve as the decision maker of the business? Well, or act as the decision taker only? Thank you. So I think you can answer it very simple.
Totally. I mean, yes, you should take their opinions and their needs into account. Like, imagine if you're like buying red t-shirts for your team, but they want blue shirts. Like, yeah, you have the final say at the end of the day, but it's nice if you take into account what they believe. And honestly speaking, like, I have a few friends who have their own businesses, and sometimes they're 50-50 partners, and then they reach a stalemate on making a decision. So at the end of the day, you need to have one leader in the business, in my opinion, who calls the final executive decision. Otherwise, you're just going to be making like these like compromises, and then nothing happens. Look at the US, like no change is happening even through all this gun violence, because there's just like no one calling the executive decision. Change doesn't happen unless someone calls that final shot. And as the leader, you do need to take into account what your team wants, because it's usually really good information and it'll help you make the right decision. But you, at the end of the day, have to create that final decision at the end of the day, and people need to believe and trust your decision.
Right. So I think for startup, I think we need also to consider that when you start to create your own startup, so it's supposed to be a liquid organization. So you need to consider everyone to make sure that everything that's going to be okay. So we do not actually letting them down. We're going there together as a team. So I think that's very spot on. So Lily, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you very much, Pak Sukma. Monty, thank you very much for the sharing with us this morning. I think this one is also like example of the circular economy, in which right now that we are talking about circular economy. So this is, I think, the real one. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely, I know that's, the circularity we want to achieve is definitely a long ways away for us to really hit those targets. But it's nice knowing that, like, if we're looking at levels, like, you have traditional business, sustainable business, circular business. I like to think we've already achieved the sustainable, which is sustaining the current norm. But now we need to think more circular or regenerative techniques. And if you really want to be ahead of the time of your time, like look at developing those things and how your business or project is going to be hitting those regenerative or circular techniques, because that's even a step above sustainability.
Okay, so last one, I think. Okay, for the last question. So anyone? Elsa, go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, so it's just a quick question. I have like my own small NGO that I founded last year. Are you open to working together with small NGOs that particularly focus on upcycling? Because I do too.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we totally, I mean, we work with nonprofits, that's for sure. I mean, why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you do with upcycling?
So basically like the process is to take in donations from people who don't wear their clothes anymore, but like secondhand wearables are for sure my main target. And then I redistribute them to remote areas in Indonesia where they may not have access to, you know, appropriate clothing. So that's just the system that I have right now. And I'm single-handedly handling the operations myself with a graphic designer, which is my own cousin. So it's very small. So I do agree we have to start very small, right, in order to achieve something big or something like that. So I was just asking, is it possible to kind of work together in the future?
I mean, I'm not going to say anything's impossible, but definitely, you're happy to connect with you, after this presentation, and definitely explore, how we can help each other out.
Okay, so I
thank you, Monty.
Yep, thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Monty, as well. So I think it's an open opportunities, I guess. I think we can have further discussions after this later on. But I would like to say thank you, Monty, for presenting all the materials and sharing all your knowledge about your business. Then we do learn a lot of things when it comes to sustainabilities and entrepreneurships. Yeah. So just a little bit recaps about what you were presented before. So you're talking about how you can make use of the waste to become a beneficial product for your business. You also talk about how the environment's supporting all the products that you actually created. Then the business model that you mentioned, I think that's a very good kind of method. Do well and do good, and then you're trying to combine all of those things. I think this is something that needs to be learned by all the startups as well, and how you can cooperate with the people to make use of the leftover waste. I think the process is not very simple, right? You talk about how the failures come with your business, and then a lot of prototypes you have made as well. And I think it's a hard thing to do, but you're doing a very good job with that. And last thing, you also mentioned about certifications, which no one is actually asking about that by today. But I think in terms of sustainability, I just would like to reconfirm this. Some people think certifications is just the tools that makes your company look sustained or looks responsible for their business. But when I see your presentations, no, this is something to make sure that you are following the standards. You are following all the criteria of how to be sustainable. So I think the point of view of certifications is now clearly explained by your presentation. So certification is not just about tools to make your company look certified or look sustainable. It's just how to make sure that you're doing everything based on the standards. And I think that's a good thing. when we talk about sustainability.
Definitely.
Okay.
Well said.
Okay. Thank you, Monty. So I think we can have a group photos before we close this. Oh, before that, there's a very special token of appreciation for you, Monty. So as we mentioned before, we will send this to you. So thank you very much, Monty, for your sharing. So you also need to know that we made this from sustainable materials.
Ooh, awesome.
So yeah, hopefully you like it. So let's do it, the group photos. Everyone, please turn on your camera and then let's have a group photos.
Okay, there are 17 pages, Pak Sukma. So
17 pages.
Yes, so I'll start from the page 1, yeah? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Next page. 1, 2, 3. Third page. 1, 2, 3.
Keep your smile.
4, 1, 2, 3. 5, 1, 2, 3. 6, 1, 2, 3. 7, 1, 2, 3. 8, 1, 2, 3. 9, 1, 2, 3. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. That's it, Pak Sukma.
That's a record, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, believe it. All right. Okay, so before the students go, so I think there's one thing that you need to do, which is the link for the exit ticket, if I'm not mistaken. Can it be shared to the screen, please? Can someone share it, please? The exit ticket, or is it already in the chat box? Oh, there you go. So students, thank you for joining today's session. So if you would like to claim your FAT points, please do this. We do really love your inputs and your recommendations for our future sessions, okay? So again, thank you, Monty, for your presentation and for your sharing for today. Hopefully we can see you again. Hopefully we can have a collaborations in our future projects, and I think so many students are very, very happy to see you again in the future and then hear your presentations again. Okay, thank you very much, and see you again in the next sessions. Please also don't forget to check the schedule of the International Professional Week. There's a lot of interesting sessions ahead. So thank you guys. Bye-bye and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Monty. Thank you, Pak Sukma. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you, Monty.
Thank you.
Thank you.